Some have hydraulic bathtubs that lead to escape tunnels, and some even have private zoos. This is the Cartel boss house tier list. Carlos Lehder co-founded the Medellin Cartel and revolutionized cocaine smuggling by pioneering bulk shipments via small aircraft. Think of him as the guy who invented cocaine's supply chain logistics department. In 1978, Carlos Lehder set his sights on Norman's Cay, a sleepy Bahamian island with about 100 vacation homes, a marina, and a small airstrip. He didn't buy a house on it, he bought the whole island, piece by piece, through a shell company. And any resident who wouldn't sell got a visit from armed men explaining that their home had changed ownership. Absolutely nightmare seller's market. Once he had full control, he extended the runway to 3,300 feet, brought in radar, patrol boats, guard dogs, and armed guards, and turned the entire Cay into a cocaine refueling depot, moving plane loads of product from Colombia to Florida. Inside his own home on the island, he reportedly kept a framed photo of Hitler and openly identified as a Nazi sympathizer, which was too much even for the rest of the Medellin cartel. Escobar himself started distancing from him for being unhinged, which if Pablo Escobar thinks you're too much, that's really saying something. An associate later described the island's parties as pure chaos. Women driving Land Rovers naked to greet arriving planes, no police, no rules, just cocaine and money. At his peak, Lehder was clearing $250 to $300 million a year off the operation, and he got cocky enough to drop leaflets over the Bahamas reading "Go Home DEA," the least subtle marketing campaign ever run, though it didn't last. By 1982, with US pressure mounting on the Bahamian government, Lehder torched his own compound and fled into the South American jungle, leaving behind a scorched island that the Bahamas eventually reclaimed and has been trying to redevelop as a resort ever since. Somewhere there's a TripAdvisor review that just says, "Great snorkeling, weird history." S tier. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman's Culiacan safe house looked like nothing from the outside. 28,000 square feet, 2 bedrooms, bars on the windows, no pool, nothing that would make a neighbor look twice. That was the point. The most wanted man in the Western Hemisphere living like a guy who just got divorced. Underneath the bathtub though, he'd had a hydraulic lift installed that raised the tub to reveal a hidden staircase down into a tunnel connected directly to the city's storm drain system. Extremely normal home renovation. D tier. Demetrius Big Meech Flannery co-founded the Black Mafia family, a cocaine operation dressed up as a hip-hop record label. Genuinely, one of the great LinkedIn about section lies of all time. He built his Atlanta mansion in the early 2000s, right as the Black Mafia family was exploding from a Detroit cocaine operation into a fully fledged criminal empire disguised as a hip-hop label. The house sat on 9 acres and topped out at 25,000 square feet, with a home theater, indoor and outdoor pools, a tennis court, and a 2-story ballroom big enough to host BMF's legendary parties. It wasn't just a flex property. It doubled as the operation's actual headquarters, where deals got made at a marble slab table while stacks of cash sat in the middle of the room, like the world's worst Monopoly night. That ran until the summer of 2005, when federal and local investigators raided the property, found nearly $700,000 in jewelry, and arrested Flannery inside one of the bedrooms, the beginning of the end that landed him over a 30-year sentence. The mansion was seized, changing hands multiple times over the years, and has bounced on and off the market ever since, valued anywhere from $2 to $4 million, forever tagging with its BMF history whether buyers want that or not. Imagine explaining that to your homeowners association. A tier. Amado Carillo Fuentes ran the Juarez cartel and earned his name by moving cocaine on his own private fleet of cargo planes. The guy basically invented his own budget airline, minus the budget part. He poured his fortune into a 38,000 square foot mansion in Mexico City's Alvaro Obregón neighborhood, complete with an indoor pool, jacuzzis, a bar, a wine cellar, and gardens sprawling around the property. He barely got to enjoy it. In 1997, trying to alter his face and fingerprints to dodge capture, He died on the operating table during a botched plastic surgery, arguably the worst plastic surgery Yelp review in history. And the doctors responsible were later found murdered and stuffed in barrels as payback. The mansion sat empty for years afterward, and ownership tied up while the government worked to seize it, until it finally went to public auction in 2020, where only one bidder showed up, offering less than the $2.17 million asking price, so the sale barely went through at all. Rough open house. It didn't sell for much more the second time either. The property got folded into a national lottery raffle alongside El Chapo's old safe house, offered up to whoever bought a $12 ticket. Official value listed at under $4.5 million for a house that once belonged to one of the richest traffickers in Mexican history. B tier. Dawood Ibrahim built D Company, a heroin trafficking empire that later made him one of the world's most wanted men after the 1993 Mumbai bombings. His first known Karachi residence was a modest bungalow in the Clifton neighborhood, but after the birth of his son Muan, he built a grand residence he named Muan Palace. Heavily guarded, under constant paramilitary surveillance, and considered one of the most secure private properties in the area. This wasn't his only house though. Over the years, he's named multiple different properties the White House, one in Karachi, one in Dubai, and one in London, seemingly just to make it harder for anyone tracking him to know which house is actually his at any given time. The world's least imaginative but most effective decoy strategy. India's own dossier later claimed Dawood keeps up to 9 known addresses across Pakistan. One of them reportedly bought specifically because it was close to a hospital in case he needed emergency medical care. A level of paranoia that turned his entire housing situation into a moving target nobody's ever fully pinned down. Basically, the Where's Waldo of international crime. C tier. Pablo Escobar bought Hacienda Napoles in 1978, and by the early 80s had turned it into a 7.7 square mile monument to himself. An Olympic pool, a bull ring, an airstrip, life-size concrete dinosaurs, and a private zoo stocked with giraffes and 4 illegally smuggled hippos. He even mounted a replica of the exact plane he used to fly his first cocaine shipment right over the entrance gate, just so guests knew whose house they were walking into. Subtlety was never really the brand. It lasted until 1984, when police finally located it and he was forced to abandon it for good. Nearly a decade later, cornered and facing extradition, he cut a deal with the Colombian government. He'd surrender, but only if he got to build his own prison. The result was La Catedral, a cell with a jacuzzi suite, a disco, a casino, a soccer pitch, and a rotating bed, guarded entirely by his own men. Guards joked it wasn't maximum security, it was maximum comfort. Escobar kept running the cartel from the inside, hosted beauty queens, and eventually murdered 2 of his own lieutenants within the walls. Today, Hacienda Napoles is a theme park where tourists swim in his old pool, and the hippos he smuggled in have multiplied into a wild population of over 200 that Colombia now can't get rid of, meaning the most enduring thing Pablo Escobar ever built wasn't a mansion or a prison. It was an unkillable hippo army that still lives there. The man's real estate is gone, but his hippos have better job security than most CEOs. The absolute GOAT.